You got into real estate for freedom, but somewhere along the way, you sold it. Somewhere between all the closings, the leads, and the burnout, you forgot why you started. Let's talk about falling back in love with what you do, not just chasing another check. Hey, I'm Rob Folia, coach, broker, and author of Real Estate Reset. And let's dive in today of falling in love with and falling out of lust with real estate. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of today, I want to let you know that if any of this resonates with you, if this is just connecting with you, if you're like, man, it's a refreshing take on the real estate industry, two things. Head over to bit.ly/RAR book. You can check out Real Estate Reset for yourself. And head over to realestatereset.org. You can click on the button that says strategy session. You can get on my calendar for a free 30-minute strategy call. We can see if this is a fit. But anyway, back to what we were talking about today, falling back in love with and out of lust with real estate. So here's the thing. This industry is so unique. After all, I mean, the paychecks are big. Let's just be real about it. You know, whatever you're making on a sale of a home, it's bigger than most commission checks would be in most sales industries, right? They are fewer and further between. They're harder to get than say going out and selling a car at some car lot, right? Like there's more rejection. There's a lot more of uncovering and digging to find leads. And so you earn it. Don't get me wrong. You absolutely earn it in real estate. But because those commission checks are so big, man, it is so easy to fall in lust with this industry and kind of forget why we ever got into it to begin with. We all got into it for freedom, right? We all got into it so we can control our lives. We can control the direction of our businesses, of our jobs, of our careers. And yet, somewhere along the way, we kind of forget that, right? And we just keep chasing deals, start chasing listings, needing that extra sale, needing that next sale. Some more than others do that, and I'll just leave it at that. And yet, what I want to get at today is falling back in love with what you do and out of lust. Now, I was definitely in lust with this industry for the longest time. I've been in it for about 12 years. And once I started to really see that, wait a minute, like this commission check that I'm getting here is like 25% of my old year's salary, if that Englished, but you know what I'm trying to get at here is that like the commission check was so large compared to what I used to make that it was like, well, I want more of this, right? Money, money, money. I want more, more, more. I was that guy, just like so many of us are. And I wish, gosh, I wish there was a concept like real estate reset coaching back when, 10 years ago to just like, grab me by the ear and be like, hey, don't go that way, go this way, go after the things you care about. Because it took kind of some stumbling blocks and it took some just things that kind of wake up calls, probably the best way to put it, for me to really be like, hey, focus on what matters, Rob. I don't want that to be the case for you. I don't want you to have to deal with stumbling blocks and just negative life events in order for you to go after the things that you care about. So those negative life events, I'll just share a couple of quick things for me. So first things first, when things really started to transition for me, and just kind of looking back on it, it was about 7 years ago. One of my best friends on this earth, a guy I went to high school with and a little bit of college with. I transferred, long story short, but a little bit of college with, and we maintained our friendship for years. Unfortunately, in 2018, he passed away of cancer. Matt Riggs, I love you, Matt, and miss you every day, buddy. And yet, like that was a wake up call. That was a wake up call for me. I was 33 at the time, and I was like, life is fragile. I never would have thought that, either I or any of my close friends were just going to pass away from cancer. And that, I thought, oh, we're going to be 70, 80, 90, 100, however many years old. We're going to have a long life. And it was a wake up call for me that, man, life is short. We got to go after the things we care about. Now, that was just the beginning of it for me. I wish I could say, like, I experienced one event and light bulb moment. It unfortunately doesn't work that way, for most people anyway. And this is why you need a good coach in life, someone who's going to direct you and pull you by the ear, like I was saying. And, the next thing for me was just seeing how fragile the world was during the COVID-19 pandemic, right? And just seeing all the craziness and being like, man, what actually matters in life? Does it matter picking up this phone and making that extra phone call and dialing for dollars like all these coaches and companies just pound and pound and pound into you, does that matter? Or does family matter? Does a purpose and passion and meaning matter? Because I believe those do. And it took just kind of those wake up calls for me to say, hey, wait a minute, I've got to focus on what actually matters to me. Now, the last thing that was kind of that last wake up call for me, because again, 2018, the transition kind of started. 2020, it's like, all right, it's definitely like I see there's more to life than work. In 2021, I was diagnosed with skin cancer. Now, luckily, it was a very mild case, and everything's in remission, everything's good right now, knock on wood. And thank you to Nashville Skin for taking great care of me. My point being, what I'm getting at here is that was that final wake up call for me. That was like, hey, you've got to focus on what matters. At that point, I was a dad. I became a dad, right? My daughter was born in early 2021. So at that point, I was a dad. And I'm like, I am not going to miss my daughter. I'm not going to miss her life. I'm not promised anything. Matt wasn't promised anything, right? So many during the COVID-19 pandemic were not promised anything. And so I know I'm not promised anything. And so for however much time I'm lucky enough to be on this earth, I'm going to go after the things that I care about, the things that matter to me, making the impact that I truly want to make on this earth, making the impact that I truly want to make on this earth. I'm going to go after those things. And so those were the wake up calls for me. Now, you might be thinking, Rob, what does all of this have to do with real estate? And trust me, I'm getting to that. Because think back to what we were just talking about, how real estate, because of the size of the check, because the checks are not every day, most people are not selling one home every single day, right? Because of that, it can be so easy to just kind of take our focus off the fact that life is short and that we need to be prioritizing the things that actually matter to us and not just making money. We need to fall out of lust and in love with what we do. So let's talk about how we can fall in love with what we do. For me, first things first, I would say is balance. You've got to figure out, then crack your own code for what balance looks like in this industry. Now, sadly, I have talked to people who have said, yeah, I have a balanced life. I have a fulfilled life. And then they'll show me their calendar and it looks like a Picasso painting of, time blocks all over the place, working every weekend, working at night until 9 p.m., but they claim they're balanced, right? Well, if they want the honest truth, they're in lust with the industry. They're not balanced. They're chasing more and more and more and more and more rather than more freedom. Because after all, if we got the freedom, well, we wouldn't be working at 9 p.m. and be up at 7 a.m. the next day and be working every weekend or hosting all these open houses or taking phone calls when we should be with our family. We wouldn't be doing that. And so it all starts with balance. We've got to figure out what balance looks like for us. Now, I think for most people, they want to feel balanced with other people in their lives, that they might want to consider the typical business hours mindset. The Monday through Friday, somewhere between 9 and 5-ish, and those are your working hours. And yeah, you might make the odd exception, the 1% exception, where you might work a little bit later one day. You might work a random Saturday morning, but to find balance, you've got to have some sort of structure like that. The person I was just thinking about that had that calendar that looks like a painting, they didn't have that balance. They didn't have that structure. The second aspect of what it looks like to create this is about focusing on what you actually care about in the industry. Now, for most people are going to care about the people that they know, they like, and they trust, that they want to do business with. And that's a great place to start. Now, again, for most people, that list might not be long enough. If you know 500 people, maybe 1 out of 25, 1 out of 50 are going to sell in this climate that we're in this economy that we're in. So let's call it 1 out of 50. Well, if you know 500 people that know you, like you, trust you, that you want to work with, well, that's 10 sales. Can you get by on 10 sales? Maybe. Depends on your life, depends on what things look like, and that's where having a great coach comes in, because we'll look at those numbers together. But most people might need more than that. So if you need more than that, how can you get that business? Well, go after what you care about, what you enjoy doing. If you're a phone person, pick up the phone, call some FISBOs, call some expireds. If you're a personable person, like you love this meeting somebody, looking them in the eye, you're a hugger, whatever the case might be. Maybe you're an open house person. Maybe you're a door knocker. Gosh, I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that you have to lean in to what it is that you enjoy doing. And then the third thing is you've got to cut your expenses. You've got to run a lean, mean business. And what that means is you've got to get rid of the fluff. You got to get rid of the junk. Hopefully, you can affiliate with a company that can supply a lot of things to you. They can supply a website to you, that can supply a CRM to you. That's quality, by the way. Because if you do that, that's going to save you a lot of money. It's going to save you a lot of headache because you're going to have a lot of resources at your disposal. So that can be part of it. But you gotta cut expenses. So many agents pay Zillow hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars every single month just so that their face can show up on that website. Guys, don't do that. That's a waste of your money. And every single time you do that, it means you got to sell another home. It means you got to work more. You got to fall more in lust with the industry instead of in love with the industry, instead of just going after the things that matter to you in life. So there you have it. Those are 3 things you can do right now to fall more in love with this industry and out of lust with the industry. If you're not getting these types of conversations regularly, maybe inside your brokerage or with your coach, or maybe you don't have a coach, either way, no judgment, head over to realestatereset.org. Click on that button that you'll see at the top that says strategy session. Get on my calendar. Let's connect. I'd love to look at your business and see if we can make things more lean, help you find more balance, and help you have that focus to go after the things in life that you care about. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.